Okay, so this clip we're talking about thought distortions. And basically, the first thing that I want to say about this is don't believe everything you think. We have all sorts of thoughts that come into our heads all the time, and they're not always accurate representations of our realities and what's going on. So it's important to know that sometimes we have thoughts that are distorted or inaccurate, and they can reinforce negative thinking patterns. And we have them because they appear to be helpful. Like our brains are just trying to help us out by preparing for the worst, by organizing information. So preparing us for the worst could look like hypothetical thinking or catastrophizing a situation. And organizing information could look like black or white thinking, so putting things into categories. And it can feel like our brains are taking care of us, but the more we get into these distorted thinking patterns, they can become harmful. So we wanted to talk a little bit about those today. We want to remember what we do have control over, what we don't have control over, and the fact that in our lives, we're humans and there's gray area, there's nuance to the lives that we live. Things are complicated and messy, and they're not always as simple as the categories that we wish that we could put them in. So, two seemingly opposing things can be true at once. That's an important thing to remember. And just in general, that there is always nuance to the thoughts that we have. So I'm just going to talk about two or three specific thought distortions that are the most common, and just explain a little bit what they are so that we can start noticing them when they come up. So catastrophizing is expecting the worst possible outcome, and when a small worry grows into a full-blown catastrophe. So it could be something like, if you think back to your school days, you are studying for your exam, you haven't done well in the course so far, you're thinking, I'm going to fail this exam. If I fail this exam, that means that I might fail the course. And if I fail the course, that means that what if I could get kicked out of school? I could get kicked out of school, never earn my degree, and I'll never get a job. I'll never be financially stable. I'll never have any money. I'm a failure. You can see how it started from studying for your exam to all of a sudden your whole life is over. So that's what catastrophizing looks like. Another thought distortion is all or nothing thinking. So when there's no room for complexity, no room for gray area or nuance. This is exactly what I was talking about before. In our lives, there is nuance. It's just the way it is. But with all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking, it's always one thing or the other, and there's no room for that complexity. So an example might be, well, if I don't get an A in the course, then I may as well drop out of school. Or another example that's relevant to COVID might be, well, if I can't see my family, my friends in person, then I don't want a phone call. I don't want to FaceTime. It's just not the same. I'm not going to do that either. So there's no in between, as you can see in the little cartoon at the bottom there. It's either exactly the way you want it, perfection, or failure. And I will say that when we do make room for that gray area in between, a lot of things open up, a lot of opportunities open up, and it's very freeing, but it's hard to get there. So that's what all or nothing looks like. Hypothetical worry looks similar to catastrophizing in some ways. But basically what it is worrying about something that hasn't happened yet, or that may or may not happen at all. So it's all about those what if moments. So what if I can't get a job? What if I get COVID? What if someone dies? What if I lose my job? What if I lose a friend? All of these things are just what ifs. They may or may not happen. And sometimes we can get down a rabbit hole about things that are out of our control, and that may or may not happen at all. Okay, so that is all that I'm going to say on thought distortions, and I'll be back in a little bit with something else.